8/4/23, and we have Pete Hillenbrand here, an Evansville native, and flew a B-47. And we have Mike Rasche, also an Evansville native, and Mike's going to ask him some questions about his flying. But Pete, tell us when you were born and what grade school and high school you went to.
I was born in Evansville and went to St. Benedict Grade School and then Rice Memorial High School.
And
then into the Air Force.
okay, and we're going to get into the Air Force. And your mother had a shop on Lincoln Avenue. What was the name of that?
Rosemary's.
Right, it was on Lincoln Avenue, then it went across into the Teak building. One of the most popular knickknacks in this whole city. Sold all kinds of interesting little things.
She did, yeah.
And was Billy Hillenbrand the football star at Memorial and Leo related to you? Billy and Leo
Billy was Leo's first cousin, and Leo was my dad.
Okay.
And then the other Billy was my brother.
So William he graduated Memorial in 1966, and you graduated Memorial in 1960?
51.
51, okay, 51. So you flew these planes over in the Korean era.
Right.
Okay. Billy Hillenbrand, his second cousin, is and Leo Hillenbrand, in the class of 37 at Memorial, they went 10-0, and they were called the mythical national champions of football. Best football players in our area at that time in 1937.
That was, yeah.
And so after you graduated from high school, you went and entered the Air Force. Tell us where you entered the Air Force. Where did you enter the Air Force?
I went, first of all, and I went up to Rancho, Illinois, and took a battery of exams, and then got an assignment to Lincoln Air Force Base, Nebraska, and flying as a pilot with a B-47.
B-47. B is in baby 47, so that's a
Right.
bomber 47.
Bomber, right.
And you were in the U.S. Air Force, which started in 1947, so.
Right.
Okay. So why did you go in the Air Force, why not the Army or the Navy?
Well, I wanted to fly,
There you go.
That's a good reason.
and it looked like the Air Force was the quickest route, and it worked.
And then you came back to Evansville. When you got out, what did you do for a living here in Evansville? I know you were an optimist with my dad for about 25,
Right.
30 years.
And those are some memorable years. Your dad was really a good optimist.
Yeah.
When I came back, I went to work for the Federal Aviation Agency,
FAA,
right in the control tower,
in Evansville.
Evansville.
Oh, okay.
How many years did you do that, Bill?
First in Indianapolis, and then down to Evansville. And I did that about 40 years, completed my time.
When the Reagan changed everything with air traffic controllers about 82, you didn't get kicked out?
No, I didn't go along with that.
So did you get, but he fired everybody, didn't he? Didn't Reagan fire everybody in
He
82?
just fired the one that joined the union,
I see.
and they called the strike.
So you didn't join the union?
No.
I see. So 40 years, you were there from 55 to 95 at our control, so you probably told this guy to the left of you to do certain things, because he flew all the time then, so you were the controller, and he didn't even know, you just heard your voice.
Just a voice.
Yeah.
I gotta watch what I say so I get it right.
O-
No,
Okay,
I'm sure we've talked.
well, now I want Mike to ask you some questions, beginning your training and where your training experience, and then your experiences with that B-47. So Mike will lead the question.
What was your crew position on the B-47? Your crew position,
Yes, speak up.
co-pilot, weapons officer?
Oh, they refer to it as pilot, but it's I would say like the second pilot.
Okay.
I had the rear
You
seat,
had and you were in charge of the rear guns also, right?
right, radar control.
And you
You
were
were
cross-trained
in
on
charge.
flying the airplane?
Oh, yes, you had to be able to land it, because that's what you were there for.
Yeah. Did you get much practice with the gunnery?
Yes, we did.
I know Strategic Air Command,
I
everybody's
was at
doing
Lincoln
everything.
Air Force Base. A lot of times we would go down over the Gulf
Mhm.
of Mexico. Also, they would put on simulated atom bombs.
This would be the
Because
same
that was
weight, but not an active.
My
weapon.
job was to go back and arm them. And then also to rush the storage tanks. We'd have mid-air refueling,
Mhm.
and you had to really watch as the fuel came into the plane. You had to direct it to different tanks, otherwise you get tail heavy and stall off of the boom, which happened, and it
Did
was
you-
embarrassing.
Were they still using the C-97s, the prop tank? Were they still using the prop tankers?
Right, KT
Like,
97s.
it was all it could do,
Uh-huh.
and you were falling out of the sky
Those
behind it.
instructors would get us new horns coming in and let us go to latch onto the boom from a tanker
Mhm.
plane, and then they would sit back there and laugh at us because you'd see that boom. And inevitably, you try to go, and you just drove yourself crazy trying to fly that plane into the boom. And finally, it dawned on you, like, why don't I just fly formation with
They're
that
supposed
tanker?
to fly the boom into you.
Right, and let the boom operator do his job, and he would guide it right in. And that made a world of difference.
You and the first
Yeah,
pilot
yeah.
take turns doing mid-air refueling, but you had to stay up on it, right?
All
You
right,
had to do your share of mid-air refuelings.
oh, yes, uh-huh.
How long would a typical training mission, how long would that last?
It would depend on what you had to do, but they could last as long as about 24 hours.
Well, it's indefinite to keep
it would
tankers.
be,
The
And,
airplane
you know,
can
I
carry
mean-
about 10 to 12 hours of fuel
Yes.
just by itself. You could make a career out of flying that thing. They
Uh-huh.
kept putting tankers up.
Now, the range on those were so far with mid-air refueling.
Mhm.
That's one thing that I miss. I'm not eligible to join the VFW because I'm not a veteran of foreign war. The B-47 range was so far you didn't have to be
You leave the
stationed
States.
overseas.
Yeah.
You could take off from Lincoln, Nebraska, and believe me, we had a lot of,
Fly to the Russian border and then come back, hopefully.
oh yeah.
You never knew, though, that if you're gonna be
You
recalled or
had
not.
your missions that you had to know,
Mhm.
and there were like 4 to 6, and when you had an alert going and you'd run down and take off, you didn't know which target yours was until you got airborne.
Right.
And that's kept it secret.
And you didn't know if it was for real or not until they said, come back, or they never said
Oh,
come
yeah.
back. That could be a little hairy.
It was, you know. But I enjoyed the Air Force, and
But you were never deployed, like to Great Britain or
No.
other bases? You were just based here in the States?
With the exception of TDY, temporary
Right.
mission. I was over in England one time around London, but it wasn't very much, not very long. Maybe 6 months.
Mhm. Well, they didn't have to move you, you had to arrange to get there.
Oh, yeah. That was,
You're halfway
Spend
there.
all day and some of tomorrow getting there and getting back.
Pete, what other planes did you fly when you trained? What other planes did you fly?
I started out, what is it, the
Stearman,
Piper,
a Piper?
that little Piper, a real small plane.
Uh-huh.
And then got from there to the T6
Mhm.
Texan. Now that was more of a plane to fly. I mean, it was pretty heavy.
And then you went to your other one, or did you go to another one between that? After the T6, did you go right into the B-47?
I went into the B-47.
Yeah.
Well, that's a jump.
And I trained there on the sides. And
How many total hours did you have flying? 1,000?
I was in, I would say close to 3,000
Yeah.
in
All of them.
in the military.
And did you fly a private plane afterwards here? Did you fly as a pilot afterwards in Evansville and Indianapolis?
I initially was looking forward to maybe flying for the airlines. But then as I got more into it, it was my feeling that that wasn't much of a family job.
Yeah.
I mean,
You're gone.
kids be grown up, so
Yeah.
that's when I decided to go with the FAA and then stayed right here.
Tell me, on all the flyings, the 3 different types of planes you had, what would be your advice for kids learning to fly? What's your advice for kids learning to fly and how to learn to fly and what they should think about before they take on that challenge?
Well, get a good instructor,
Gotta like math.
keep your mouth shut, and listen to him. But it's kind of nice. I have an advantage there. I can't remember just how long I've been married, and that's gonna. But I learned how to keep my mouth shut.
Marriage can help that. Marriage can help that too. They got a good training ground. That's a very good training ground.
She really helped me out there.
She helped you. She was your trainer. Did you have any close calls in all those 3,000 hours? What was your closest call, or your closest 2 calls where you got scared?
When I started training, I went into multi-engine, and you would start out and fly with a pilot that was already checked out as his co-pilot, and shoot landings. You'd come down and land and just take right back off. And once it was at Reese Air Force Base in Texas. Okay. I pulled up after I landed, took off, and turned crosswind, and then turned downwind, and and as I turned downwind, I looked out here, and I was flying formation. You know, and that's in a traffic pattern, and had that bumped, you know. The other pilot of the other plane, he saw it, and he just flew straight ahead. I stayed in the pattern again. So I mean, he might have been scared a little bit worse than I was.
Was this in the 47 or,
I know this was the B-25,
okay,
Billy Mitchell.
right, the twin engine recip. Yeah.
So Mike, you're an expert on the B-25s, you're giving some talks, can you ask him some, Mike can ask you some questions about the B-25, he flew that, he's a B-25 man.
B-25 expert, I guess.
Yeah.
I like that, yeah.
They made me one. But how'd you like flying the B-25? I mean, was it easy? I mean, how'd you like flying the B-25? Was it easy to get into? It's
Oh, gosh, I'm
not
sorry.
a airplane. Trying to think what model. Do you remember what model it was? Was it J or
The what?
B-25? Was it the trainer model?
The
They made some
B-25.
T-25s.
Yeah, they train in them as tandem seating, you know, and then,
What about single engine? How was that to deal with?
well, that was, you know, you were just in the one seat there, and that,
But you're flying the B-25 on one engine, how was that to deal with?
I never had to do that,
Oh,
but, I mean, they would train us, the instructor sometime would pull the throttle on the
yeah,
plane.
yeah, that's
You had to
the
find
idea, that engine's just cargo now.
right away which engine it was and shut it down.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one guy said, well, Pete, that's simple. Dead leg, dead engine.
Yep, that's still
So,
true.
and you still,
That's still true.
that.
Or working
So
foot,
that-
working
that
engine.
happened, and the leg that wasn't used, that's how it was the engine, so yeah.
Because when you go to grab to shut the engine down, you don't want to
Yeah.
shut down the wrong one. Because you go from
Right.
one engine to no engines, and B-25s don't glide very well.
No, they don't.
That's why they put that step in there, which foot is working, or which foot is dead.
Uh-huh.
Dead foot is the one you feather. And you don't want to get that wrong.
Probably another time I was good and scared. It was at Reese Air Force Base, and we had went out on a mission, just a navigation mission, came back and fuel was pretty low. There's a thunderstorm right over the airport,
Okay.
and I was the pilot on that mission instead of the co-pilot.
Mm-hmm.
But, oh, man, I can remember coming down final approach, and that rain was just blowing back, and you're jacking that cross control,
Mm-hmm.
you know, back and forth, trying to keep it level with the runway.
Mm-hmm. You didn't have a lot of fuel to go
I
somewhere else,
forgot
did you?
that, no. I mean, I would have went around if I could have. There at Reese, I can't remember now, there was another Air Force base just a little bit further south. Could have went down there maybe.
What part of
But I
Texas?
was pushing so hard on that rudder, and I could feel my leg and the muscle there just vibrating.
So you're trying to get in there, you got one engine that's not producing power.
Yeah,
This
you
is the
know,
instructor training you, seriously.
and then you get down there, things start to happen so fast, boy, you just gotta, don't have time to be scared. You know,
Does he keep it right side up?
yeah, that's right.
Did you ever get a problem with gas or your wheels or your flaps? A problem with your gas or your wheels or your flaps? Any problem with those when you were flying?
No, I didn't more.
How about ailerons? They ever not work? The ailerons always work?
Very on, they did for
They
me.
should work.
Yeah.
They're really basic.
Yeah,
You never had a water landing or a crash landing?
Thank God, no.
B-47
I
was
think
ditched
some
very
of the
well.
people in the control tower thought some of my approaches might be getting pretty close to like a controlled crash.
B-47 wasn't a very easy airplane to land, was it?
No, it
It was
wasn't.
slick.
It was so hard, and from the back seat, you didn't have much vision to see, you know, like your wings and it just was really tough.
Yeah, they had a pretty high loss rate due to accidents
Yeah. they
because
did.
it was a swept wing, slick, fast airplane. Getting the thing slowed down and then controlling it was a hurdle. And particularly if you got out of a B-25 into a
I think
B-47.
it really was something, those jet penetrations.
Mhm. Come down.
You'd fly over your marker.
Mhm.
And they gave you a heading and you were way up there.
Right.
And you would cut that fire and go down like that and you would come down almost head first. And that was the co-pilot's job, was to keep his eye on that altimeter,
So I'm
Calling
winding pretty
out.
quick.
thousands
Yeah.
as they go, because the AC up front, yeah, you know, he had problems, but
You're basically falling out of the sky, the jet
it
penetration
was, boy.
across the high
It
point.
would really come down. I mean,
Pete, we got another question for you. Bob Cleveland, he was in the Air Force a little after you. This is Bob Cleveland here.
oh,
And he,
Bob.
yeah, he flew, this is Pete Hillenbrand, he flew a Piper, a B-25, a T-6, B-27, and a B-47. And he might have a couple questions for you. And he was stationed over in England. You never were stationed TDY in England because he met some of the RAF in
Oh,
1979.
did you? That was,
Yeah, a lot of the
Speak up.
Battle of Britain pilots, we had a dining in for them every year.
oh,
It was great
pardon
fun.
me.
Speak up, speak up.
I said we had a dining in for all the Battle of Britain pilots each year, all the surviving pilots.
The Battle of Britain, they had a dining in for all the Battle of Britain pilots over there in England.
Did they?
Were you ever stationed in England or overseas for TDY?
No,
Never over there.
just TDY, yeah.
He was there for 6 months
Yeah.
on one TDY stretch
Yeah.
near London somewhere.
Where was it near London? Where was it? Where was a base in London? Near London?
What bases were near London?
There's Mildenhall.
Not too many,
Lakenheath, Mildenhall. There was a bunch of them in World War II.
Where was Biggin Hill? Is that in that area?
Yeah.
Just the names I've heard, I don't know where they are, other than they're in Great Britain.
How much wood was in a B-25? My father in World War II worked in a wood shop in support of B-25s.
in World War II, where,
He was at Pearl Harbor and he worked in the wood shop, and it was aircraft maintenance, and it was all B-25s that they were working on. I was trying to figure out how much wood was in a B-25.
Do you know how much wood was in the B-25?
no, I don't.
Yeah,
Mark, I
yeah.
don't think, I didn't know we,
What height did you fly in the B-47 and what height did you fly in the B-29 and did you have any problem with that altitude?
you had to go on oxygen, most every flight.
Would you be up in the
I'm just
30s?
not real sure how. I feel like maybe 45,000 feet or something.
Was it cold up there? Yeah. No heat in that plane.
Oh,
Or the B-47, no heat and no compression issues, because they did the B-29, but then not, that was the first one in World War II, but B-47, they had compression, heat, and everything.
Yeah.
That wasn't used in the B-47 wasn't used in the, Berlin airlift, was it? It was a 54, wasn't it?
It wasn't the 40.
C-47 was strictly a bomber.
C-47, but there was another one for the Berlin airlift of newer model.
C-54 was a
C-54,
4-engine recip.
yeah.
But the B-47 was strictly a bomber.
I
It
see.
didn't have room for anything but atomic bombs.
Uh-huh.
What do you think about this movie out on Oppenheimer? It just came out Oppenheimer was a movie on the B-29. The amount of money spent on the B-29 was $2 billion. The amount on the atom bomb was $2 billion. The amount of money spent in Evansville was $600 million. But what do you think about the atom bomb? And if you'd have been on that plane, what would you have done?
Mark, probably what I was told.
Good
Did
answer.
you have any missions with a live weapon? Or were they all, you ever had a flight with a live weapon on the airplane?
A live one, no. They were made almost exactly like it.
Mm-hmm.
We'd fly down over the Gulf
Mhm.
and drop them.
Mhm.
You get the feel of the effect it had on the plane, because they were pretty heavy.
Yeah.
When I was getting out, they were just bringing in that pitch bombing. For a B-47 was
Oh.
real maneuverable, and out in western Nebraska, where you'd come in real low over the ground and approach a target, and then whip it up into an Immelman and release the bomb on the way up, and then you got up there and turned around and got out of there, because those bombs are so powerful. Once they went off, you had to be pretty far down the road.
A lot of turning around. That's the same as President Bush did. That was a different type of plane. President Bush was on a bomber that would hit the ships, and he had to get up and get out of there before they got him.
Torpedo bomb.
For
The torpedo bombing, but your bombs are probably 2 tons or 3 or 4.
What he's talking about is that the aircraft would come in low and it would use its inertia. The airplane would be doing a half a roll, and as it was going vertical, they would release the bomb. Well, the bomb goes that way.
Yeah.
The airplane goes inverted and rolls back and then continues
Goes
to
down
dive
again.
because he wants to get away from that thing. Because the blast radius is measured in miles.
Wow.
And so he's doing an aerobatic maneuver with the B-47, which is a big airplane.
And that wings, I guess, were strong enough to hold that aerobatic maneuver, because
Well,
a lot of planes can't hold that.
They had problems with them later on. They had to beef up the hinge or the wing pins because of the G loading. It was only like, supposedly, it would be about 2 Gs coming up. Well, occasionally you kind of overshoot it. But the wings would flex a lot.
Yeah,
But it was basically aerobatics.
you could look out and see the wings sometimes.
Well, they flex all the time.
Yeah,
That didn't scare you doing that, though. That didn't scare you, going upside down?
no, not, well, you're having so fast, you know, you went in there and did that. On your way out.
Anything you got to say, Pete, about for the next generation, about our freedom, about how important the military is to our freedom? Anything to say to the younger generation about freedom and the military?
I'd say thank God for the military. And that's why I feel we have our freedom. And I'm proud to be a part of America for that. They, I think any country over here that are outside the United States, it seems like, well, we're the benchmark for everything.
Seems everybody wants to come here.
They want,
Because of
and I
freedom.
don't blame them.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah,
Well, thank you, Mike Rasche. Thank you, Pete Hillenbrand. Pete Hillenbrand, what's your birth date?
pretty far back.
Oh, you were there.
Yeah, oh.
In 36, 34.
January the 19th, 33.
33. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, and thank you for your service to the country, and thanks for being a part of Corpus
Oh,
Christi.
Mark, you're welcome.
Thank you. Bye now.
Thank you for your talk at Corpus Christi. We enjoyed it.